Welcome to Contemporary Black Voices, where we take on the most pressing issues affecting Black America. I am your host, Dr. Sharon Michael Chadwell. With me today is my other co host, activist and entrepreneur Chris Dawkins. Missing is New York Times bestseller Caleb Alexander. Also missing is the man behind this show, author and screenwriter Fred Williams, and all of us here at Black Video Network and Contemporary Black Voices continue to miss you. There is something in the water fountain when it comes to some Black Republican politicians and pundits like U.S. Senator Tim Scott, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, Florida's U.S. Representative Byron Donalds, and Candace Owens, and more. So we already know that Tim Scott asserted that America is not a racist country. During his rebuttal following President Joe Biden's address to Congress, Scott emphasized this viewpoint, highlighting the country's racial progress over this past century. Now, we know Clarence Thomas is an interesting piece of work. He did not support affirmative action, and now Brown versus the Board of Education. Candace Owens. Well, Owens suggested that the cop who shot Rayshard Brooks in the back was unjustly fired. She also made controversial remarks about George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and the Black Lives Matters movement, and much more. Now, while their political leanings can be questioned, we have some Black pastors who have prayed with Trump in the White House. And Reverend John Gray says his presence does not signify support of Trump. In addition, prominent figures like MLK Jr.'s son, Alveda King, and one of your pastors from Ohio, Darrell Scott, have met with Trump. Given these individuals' position of influence in the Black community, what have been and will be their residual effect on the Black community? Another question that I know a lot of us have been wondering about, does having a non-Black spouse or want-to-be partner give them carte blanche to say what they say? Are Black ministers using the MAGA effect attention to elevate their position in the community? So we have lots to talk about here. So let's get started with this discussion. But first, make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the like button also on the on your screen so that you can get messages as to when we're coming on, especially in our other segment called Hot Topics. So Chris, what do you think about these jokers?
We better get our stuff together, and there is nobody collectively who is a leader to really reprimand these people. I thought the reprimand that Speaker of the House, not Speaker of the House, but the minority Speaker of the House, Jeffries, what he said about Byron Donald, I thought was good. I thought it was timely. I thought it was the right thing said at the right time. However, I think that we need to come together to decide what is right for us and what is wrong for us. And when you've got somebody who steps out of the tent, so to speak, of Blackness, they need to be called to the table.
You know, as we went to a Juneteenth prayer breakfast this morning, and there was a gentleman, Pearson, Representative
Pearson.
Pearson, and he's a Republican. And as I was sharing with you guys, I don't have a problem with Republicans. I have a problem with those who just say some of the most outlandish things that could be detrimental to the community. And so one of the biggest issues I'm seeing is that you got like Clarence Thomas, who really has more power than all of these put together, completely wiping out the efforts of his ancestors and getting us many of the things that we had affirmative action, looking at expanding civil rights opportunities, not just for Black folks, but for all folks. And then you have Byron Donalds who is trying to rewrite Black history in relation to what was going on during the Jim Crow period and Black folks. Candace Owens, we know she was in it for the money and still trying to figure out how to get back in it for the money. Right? And then also Tim Scott. Tim Scott, to me, is just a lost cause based on how he was raised. But I have a serious concern that when prominent Black folks who, and I'm saying they're prominent because they're given more mainstream airtime, and so they can get their messages out more. But when they say, like Byron Daniels, when he says Black folks did better during Jim Crow than now, it's kind of like, what did his family go through?
Lord have mercy. I don't think that, I don't know where he got that or how he came up with that. To me, those stories, when he tells stories like that, or any of the Republicans who tell stories like that, are only to try to appeal to the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, folks who are watching, okay, whether you're a Democrat or not, you must vote this November, and actually you got to vote every Republican out. Not because you don't like Republicans, but they need to rebuild their party, and the only way that they will rebuild their party with people who will work both sides of the aisle is that you get rid of all of them. You cannot keep any of them. And once we blow up that party and show people that a Republican cannot be elected, then they will go back and redo their party. And that's what we must do. These Republicans are not Republicans like John McCain or Mitt Romney or even what's the girl Cheney?
Liz Cheney.
Liz Cheney, yeah. I mean, these folks are willing to have conservative viewpoints, but they also have America in their best interest. And the reason why the majority of them are not in Congress now is because they've been run out by these MAGA individuals.
And so, again, I guess the big question is how much damage can the Tim Scotts do? Can the Byron Daniels do? Can the Candace Owens do? Can some of these pastors do to the Black community based on their behavior and their sustaining support for Trump? And it's scary to see that especially with Clarence Thomas sitting in the Supreme Court, he's already saying that he has problems with the verdict of Board versus the Brown of Education.
Again, I don't know. It's becoming increasingly important to find out the positions of these wives and the positions that the wives are taking outside of what their husbands are doing. Because when you look at Alito and then you look at Clarence Thomas, when you look at the pillow talk that's happening is affecting how our country is being governed. So I believe that you've got to rein in all of this somehow. And we need a leader. I continually say that, and I'm going to keep saying it. We need a leader. And until we do that, we have no standards by which to operate. And so these people do get away with saying the things that they say because there's nobody to reprimand them.
Yeah, because I remember growing up, if Byron Daniels is listening, I remember us driving from Texas to Georgia, and we stopped off in either Mississippi or Alabama. It must have been Mississippi because there's an Air Force base there. And so we stopped off at one of those little highway motels to try to stay overnight. Well, they tried to give my mama and daddy the nastiest room in the motel. So my father always carried what he called his monkey suit with him at all times. He went ahead, went to a restroom, put on his military uniform, and we stayed up on base. But it's kind of like we're living in an environment now to where we have to have a green book. And we're going to come back in a few moments and we're going to pick up on this green book idea.